context of in-house work there. But what in this bucket, what I've seen is that it's a historical bucket. You have a lot of product vendors running legacy products, looking at ways to come out of this whole 6-month yearly cycle, and how can I move fast, run fast, go wide, right? So that's the bucket we're talking. So I'll just talk about a few challenges that the customer was looking at to solve in this space, right? So when I had, so the first one is a product team, which is probably the engineering team is around 200, 250 precise. It's a small company doing very well, been living there for 20 years. So very old product, been running well. Not much of problem, but the problem is the release cycles are very slow. It is stable. Once it is released, it is stable, but it takes that long to make the, that was their standard problem. So when I met the head of engineering there, saying, hey, what do you want to solve? Obviously, the solve is, hey, cycle time, I'm killed, I can't release as fast as I want, blah, blah, blah. So why don't you adopt this process? He said, hey, it's absolutely hard. I cannot move out of this. So the issue that he had was, I have these team which know the product very well. They've been with me for the last zillion years. The problem is, and I obviously, there is a crunch, there's a new team as well, and I'm growing and adding team and all that. So because of that, what is happening is every time I want to bring some simple things, there is no continuous integration going on. And it happens once a week. There is an integration team who will come, pull the code, it will take a week to integrate, then say it's all good. Then it goes to QA team, and they will say login is not working. Your standard problems that we've faced in our life, right? So the issue he really had was, when I try to bring continuous integration, first is obviously it will fail the first day. It will fail the second day, and we've tried it. It fails for a month, right? And then the importance of build being God goes away. And there is no importance in it. That keeps failing and no one bothers about it. So that was one, which is basically, there's a cultural shock, and obviously it's a cultural shock. But beyond that, the issue was, why don't you fix it? It's okay. So let build fails first day. So try to fix it, right? At least over a period of time. The problem was they did not have this whole concept of incrementally validating issues, right? So because it's legacy, we put a coding standard principle. Hey, I want everyone to follow coding standard. Obviously, the build is right because no one has followed for the last 20 years, right? Now, if I want to add, can I now pinpoint and say, you checked in Mr. Developer 22? It's your problem now because I have now validated only your change is not following. The old, which is 100,000 issues, let's ignore. Can we arrest technical debt today? That was his challenge. I think as an ecosystem of DevOps, I think that's one of the hardest problems that they have today from crossing that first hump. Because when it keeps breaking, he doesn't know whom to pinpoint and at least talk to that guy. Because now it's everybody's problem, therefore nobody's problem. Unless you pinpoint and say this is your problem, and of course, we have a system who can help this developer. So let me now arrest technical debt from today. And that started working very well for them. So now, in fact, and that here, this was a simple example, but that goes to unit test, to go to functional test. You can keep on doing this incremental all over. And you can convert a company, and now the culture is converted as well. That's a brilliant case where I keep talking about it. So a 200-man army now believes in DevOps, thanks to that simple problem that of engineering. So that's one thing that I want to know. The second one, in the same group, was a problem of plenty. Right? It's a huge company, large organization, grown over a period of time, and the issue they had was they have a it is grown and they kind of because it is too big, pretty much any stack, whatever language you take, they have some contribution or usage there. Right? So all tech stacks used, all pretty much whatever tools you name, they pretty much have one license of that. You have used it? Oh, I have it. I think this group has it. And to manage that, they have a tools group, which is 100 people army, managing the tools. It is like simply ridiculous, but that's how it is, right? So I'm sure some of you are coming from companies of that kind, I guess. But so the issue they had was this whole tools proliferation that happened over a period of time, and no one knew who is using what license and why they are using. Absolutely clueless. And if this is effective, should they be using? No clue. And this 100 people man army were building products to answer that question. Why are you answering that question? You not even need it, right? So that problem, the way we looked at was the issue really was, there was no standardization of process because it was cross-stack. Oh, it is Java, I'm going to use this tool and I'm going to give a different kind of report. Or it is Microsoft because BST gives me this report, I'm going to give you that. No one is actually standardizing. Actually, they're talking the same topic. Because the tool says something else, this guy is reading hundreds, zillions of kinds of reports and not able to kind of standardize and understand, okay, this is my standardized process. Right? I had a very simple layer that was needed who could understand, FX cops means code coverage here, and this is the number, put it out here, exact, something like that. Right? And across, they have some C, old C, whatever, Pro C, all those things were there. And they were doing the right things, right? But the problem was that there was no one layer, and DevOps can solve that. How we can talk about it. But I think that is a very interesting opportunity, as a DevOps ecosystem to standardize engineering process. I'm not talking about the defect tracking process. I'm talking about the hardcore. Once I check in, what should happen across technical or across various tech stacks? What should it be, and am I following it? Of course, it can be different, but is that templatized? Can that be done by vertical, by customer, whatever it needs to be, right? And that is doable. And there was great work, that we did out there. So the other example that I want to talk about was this whole new thing that is getting picked up, right? App Store. Every other company is looking at creating an app store for themselves. So when this opportunity came to us, we never knew what we had as a DevOps vendor for a company which is trying to build an app store. Right? So basically we had partnered with a marketplace, and they said, hey, this is an opportunity that is there, we'll look at. Interestingly, the biggest problem, when you go to crowdsourced space, is you have zillions of developers giving you code or app. The issue is, I'm sure most of you may have tried. Anyone created an app for iPhone? How long did it take to get it validated?
So first of all, there are a lot of issues like interlace, and it's first of all it takes like 2 or 3 days because a lot of things are not working properly. But in 3 or 4 days you are able to deliver it.
Okay. And how long Apple came back saying, yeah, you're ready now and you can?
So first of all, it declined us for the 2 weeks. We are not able to resubmit it again. The moment we resolved that particular thing, the whole time it took like around 1 month. That's quite long for us.
Yeah, absolutely. So I think that is the problem. In the sense, as more and more developers start checking in. When was that? It's interesting.
It's quite late, like 1 year back.
1 year back. So the point I was trying to make is, a developer submits some app. You may submit with code, without code, depending on what the platform vendor wants. Once it does that, if the feedback, DevOps is all about quick feedback, and if you take a month to give him feedback saying, boss, we have rejected, did you know why it was rejected? You said.
So it just the build is failed on some device.
Correct. So the problem is you don't know what to do. But the whole business is making sure developers keep on giving you apps, right? And DevOps is a great story. DevOps is all about giving quick feedback. how do you create a platform where you can receive these apps, validate, and make sure you give a very quick feedback saying, this is wrong, this is not following the standards of my platform, right? Or whatever, or it was tested, but I think it's heating up my device too quickly, whatever it happens. Right? I think that's a very interesting story that we are working on with a large high-tech brand. So I'll not get into the details, I'll just leave it at this level. If any questions, then we can talk about it. The third one, again very interesting. So here, we are seeing more and more guys outsourcing product development, right? In fact, in my earlier life, I was doing that as well. But the problem is, you don't know what you get, and that's always there. Since you write this, you have your team of architects who define this is the strategy, these are the standards that need to be followed, and all that. When you get it, it's basically a bunch of checklists saying, yeah, it's all followed, right? So it's very hard to validate unless you have a system in place to bring that whole validation. So in one case, we work with one company where, very interesting, that's where probably it's a little bit about business, is his billing or invoice approval was linked to the bill being green. That was one of the requirements. He's saying, hey, you can deliver end of month. On that day, if the bill is green, invoice will not be processed. Right? And it is still running that way. So DevOps in a different form and shape, and it's very interesting. And what they have done is for the architects, they every month they increase the standards that need to be followed, and of course with an agreement with the vendor, saying, hey, now these are the things that need to be done. You cannot do this. You cannot do this. Here is this thing, and all of that is no more documents. It's a bunch of JSONs going in and out. Right, so with that, you can completely automate what you receive, and you can be absolutely sure that it is actually what you want. Of course, you could be erring on requirement side, but at least you can be sure that it is being followed up. And that can be extended by your architectural guidelines to design, to coverage. Right? Typically we have these coverage requirements saying, you should cover your test cases with 80%. I think in SITA's case, we're talking about 80% unit test. Who measures that? And do you measure at every delivery? Do you measure whenever it comes to you? And it is not rocket science at all, but it is the way you end up, kind of projecting and using the platform to actually help you decide what is being delivered. Right. So, interesting case again. Into ponder. The next one I wanted to talk about was this is this is how we started the company. Our initial idea was this whole even from for me, ops was a black box. It goes in, you don't know what happens. Finally, you get some drop in action. Right? So this is as a development. I come from a development background. Right? So when you start your own company, and especially for startups, this is the problem. Predominantly, the startups are from a development group that they want to crack together something, quickly, right? They will not have enough ops knowledge. So we thought it's a great opportunity, go to all these startups, saying, hey, you don't have to worry about no ops. Ops. No ops is the solution that we have. You don't worry about ops, we'll take care of ops. What is ops for us? It's a bunch of these Amazon servers with this platform. You click this button, it will deploy, all is good. You click this button, it will check in. You click this, whatever, it happens. And I think that's a great story. That's how we started the company, assuming it's an interesting opportunity. We didn't do that well in this space for various other reasons, but I still believe it's a there are teams who are looking at support in this space because they want some clinical support, but they can't invest time. Their focus at this point is how quickly can I build functionality. How functional scalability is the most important. Customer gives a feedback today, tomorrow I want that feature in production. That's the thing, how clinical I am with all other things is immaterial at that stage. Can I quickly add functionality? So this is something I thought is relevant as well. I think I'm done with okay, the last one, okay. Most of you guys are here. For global SIs, we work with one SI as well. None of the biggies, of course, sitting here. The problem he had was a similar one from the App Store issue, right? So the problem he had was rather the outsourced product vendor model. So here it is, the table is turned around. He wants to now convey that I will guarantee you, without you asking me, I will guarantee you all these will be followed, and I can prove it to you any day you ask. He was trying to differentiate from the Wipros and Cognizant, these companies, saying, hey, I can guarantee you every time I deliver you something, I will make sure I do the code coverage of 80%. And I can show it to you and prove it to you beyond doubt. I will guarantee you that whatever coding standard you have, I will follow it like Bible. Right? Whatever, so that kind of thing, and that has worked well for this person, this company. It's a small company in the market. He is because there is that high expectation of following the standards and defining them and pretty much going through that process. So in all these cases, what I felt was it was a different view of the DevOps, and it's not necessarily DevOps the way we look at it. The first case study I was talking about is really make sure the product is clean as you go on, which is more an internal view. And there are certain use cases, case studies that are sitting on the edge where you can actually even touch business. If that message goes across, I think that was the purpose of this session as well. I am done from content perspective. Happy to answer any questions you may have. Stop there. Any questions? Or
it depends, right?
It really depends.
Do you prefer any of these models, the three models that you actually spoke about? And maybe the second part of the question is probably for the ones that you think you prefer, what could also be the downside to that? But I would like to go for this because, if I can get metrics whenever I want, it is about confidence, right? So I would prefer this, but I just want to hear from you.
Okay, sure. See, from I think there are two answers to this. One is, what may work as you go along, right? I will put my money on the App Store stuff because that is happening. Crowdsource is going to happen. I'm putting my money. May not happen, but I feel it is something that's going to happen. So I would prefer that from a futuristic perspective. But looking back as an ecosystem, especially India, I would love exactly like you said, because I think we can help ourselves and build. It's all about being more disciplined, and discipline is all about both enforcement. Without enforcement, there won't be any discipline, and I think DevOps can really help in that space. So from that perspective, I think you can touch the ecosystem with this model. You can actually empower many people.
So I'm not very clear on the App Store. How does that?
Which company is this? Just
I'm from Thomson Reuters.
Okay.
So how does it help in the App Store perspective? I understand that
it would not help you at all. It's a use case, but I don't think that use case is relevant to you at all. Probably, actually, let me take a step back. Today, what I believe, actually, I'm talking to some of these customers to actually create app stores because they have platform. And Thomson and Reuters have a great platform. How can they actually go to, and how can they leverage this whole long tail model, right? And that's App Store is a great platform to do that. I don't know what exactly should be done for that, but I think App Store may be relevant for you guys as well, right? Because if you have a platform which is trusted and being used by a zillion number of people across globally, then there are certain specific things that you may not be interested, but your partner may be interested for his global, whatever, wherever he is locally present. So if you build a platform where he can actually submit his app and use your platform for giving that service to that specific region, I think that's a great market.
Yeah, thank you.
DevOps at a client. What are the top 2 or 3 challenges that you usually face to getting things up and running?
So I spoke about is how do I incrementally start doing it? And that's the biggest challenge. How do I cross my first hump? Because I think the first hump, when you start providing, cross that and give feedback, that will, it is a positive cycle you get into. The first hump is the hardest hump. Then, the next hump will be, at least you have a case study to talk to, relate to, and say, hey, you cross that way. I know it's a little harder, but you can go. But the first hump is the hardest hump. Typically on the dev side. If it's on the dev side, it is how long, I think Abhishek was talking the integration test for an hour. So these are the biggest challenges they face. I check in, it takes an hour for me to even get feedback. I don't need this. I'm a brilliant guy, I'll do the right thing, don't worry. And I think that's the conversation. It will go somewhere else. It is going to be frustrating for them. So I think, having said that, I don't think DevOps has solved all the problems as well. I think that is specific problem is still a problem because you can do feature branches, whatever you do, end of the day, merging or how long you take to integrate is still an issue. However parallelized is done, especially large implementations. So that's on the ops side. I feel it is much easier. Thanks to this whole ecosystems of tools and platforms coming from Chef to Puppet to cloud itself, are actually helping the whole way you can actually automate ops side. Dev side is still really high.
But no. So, one technical question. So you mentioned about kind of a use case where you click a button from your development IDE, the code gets checked in, gets deployed on a variety of servers, right? So the first question is, do you have any integration with the IDEs, for example, right, to make it happen, number one. Number two is, what is your pass? I mean, are you using one of the open ones, or have you built your own? Because the infrastructure, I believe, is AWS. That's what you mentioned, right?
Oh, okay. So I think there are 2 parts to your question. One is, do we have an IDE for, a plugin for an IDE?
Yeah.
We had one. It didn't sell well, so we kind of stopped. Because the problem was, the problem was twofold actually. One is there were various versions of IDEs out there. As a startup, it was humongously big problem for me to support all those versions that various customers were using. That was one. Secondly, what we also did is we felt hooking into your version control was a smarter thing. You check in the way you want, right? You know how to get a different button because you know SVN well, you know how to check in, you know how to commit. Please go ahead and do it, right? We'll hook and then at that point in time we had a problem of pre-check-in. How do I now validate pre-check-in stuff? So for that we had some APIs and built some intelligence, hopefully intelligent stuff. Right? So that's one. On the other side, being cloud.